It disappeared already. That was quick. Poof. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sanjavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yesterday evening we discussed chapter 36, Chankachuda gets his head knocked off by Krishna. Sako. And now Aristasura is going to get his chance to prove his mightiness. We heard yesterday that Aristasura and Keshi, they both gave Kamsa some advice. The advice was, Radharani's the most beautiful lady in Vrindavan, and you should send Chankachuda to bring her here to Mathura and marry her, make her one of your queens. He liked the idea. And 2 chapters later, Aristasura is still around, and Kamsa is going to send Aristasura. The part of the idea, there's many ideas. Part of the idea is Krishna comes to do 3 things. What are those 3 things? Do you know what those 3 things are? Pritranaya sadhunam. You know the rest of the verse? Vinashaya chaduskritam What's the third one? Yeah. Okay. Very good. Now you know those three things. What are those three things? Sadhu, you know the meaning of sadhu. Yeah. Pritranaya is to give protection or deliverance to the sadhus. Vinash, duskritis. And dharma sangstha, to reestablish dharma. Three things. Protect the devotees, finish the demons, and reestablish principles of dharma. Each time the personality of Godhead appears, he does those three things. And now he's going to do one of those three things. He's going to deal with Aristasura. Now, this pastime happened during the Kartik month. Kartik month. And along with Krishna killing Keshi during the Kartik month came the establishing of Radhakund Shamakund on the Bahulashtami, the 8th waning moon day in the month of Bahula or Kartik. This is an old photograph. We'll show you some of the more modern photographs, and it looks a lot different. A lot different today. But this is after Radhakund was built. And we're going to go back towards the beginning of the chapter. Kamsa had some buddies, some Duskritis, which Krishna came to vinash. Right? Krishna came to vinash. So, very kindly, Kamsa said, "You're next to be vinashed." And so he sent Arishta on a fool's errand. Soon, because he had, these demons have mystic powers, and not all, but many have the mystic power of assuming different forms, mystical forms. Putana had the ability to do that. So Rishta had the ability to do that. Shankachuta, he was greedy. He came without a disguise, but Arishta came with a disguise. The description of Arishta's size is, as he ran, his horns were touching the clouds. He was really big. Really, that or low clouds, but he was a really big guy, in the shape of a bull. Vishnu Purana says, same pastime, he came into, from Mathura to Vrindavan at twilight. What's twilight? Sunset? Same? Twilight and sunset are same? So it's, huh?
It's just after sunset.
Just after sunset. Just after sunset. So the night is, the sun is set and the night is coming. Twilight. And Krishna is just getting ready to perform rasa dance. The sign is there. And it's a full moon, by the way. No, it's the 8th day. That's right, 8th day. Krishna fought his fierce battle with Arishta north of Manasa or Manasi Ganga. Where's Manasi Ganga? Manasi Ganga is right towards the middle area of Govardhan Hill. And Govardhan Hill runs north and south, and it's on the western side of Vrindavan. So, north of that area is where this scene takes place. You've seen a map of Vrindavan, and it's on the borderline of when Vrindavan goes, because further north is what happens further north. Mathura is further north. To get from Mathura to Vrindavan, you go south. Dispatched by Kamsa, in the evening when the sun's rays were red, but he came at twilight. So that's a contradiction. And I'm used to devotees being very careful listeners, and over here it says that, and over there it says that, so what's the deal, Maharaj? It was twilight, but the sun's rays were red. Vrindavan is a mystical place. Aristasura ran everywhere in a zigzag manner, full speed, killing cows, and came to the edge of a beautiful vraja. When Aristasura stepped on the ground, the earth moved, and the mountains trembled. There are not too many mountains in Vrindavan, but we know there is one. The clouds became agitated by the sound of his feet, and the moon became distorted because the hump on his back collided with the clouds. I said the horns. The hump on his back collided with the clouds. He was a big guy. Have you seen big bulls? Few of us have. Kind of. They're fearful. And they can be really big. I was visiting once, just notional conversation. Villa Vrindavan. Villa Vrindavan is a nice place in Italy. That's why they call it Villa Vrindavan. It was named after, New Vrindavan, kind of Villa Vrindavan, the Italian version. And the property before the devotees purchased it was a vineyard. Italians like wine. So they ripped out most of the vineyards. They left some because they used grapes to offer to Krishna. But they used the rest, much of the agricultural land, to grow their own crops and to have a grazing ground for cows. So I remember very clearly, kind of down a sloping hill and very scenic, very clean, very Italian. Everything was proper and trimmed, and it was really nice, very nice. And at the bottom of the hill was the bull. And the guy was really big. And he was no one was agitating him, but he was snorting and making this really loud. He needed an amplifier, that guy. Big body, big sound. It was fearful just to see the guy. We didn't taunt him, anything. He just made a lot of noise. So bulls can be very fearful. The hump on his back collided with the clouds. The people of Vraja surmised that it must be a mountain. They quickly fled in all directions in fear. He had the pride of a bull and made a terribly loud, angry, and fearful sound, which caused miscarriages in all the cows and women. And he came down a path. This is a BBT painting. And when the gopis saw Aristasura coming, they grasped tamal trees, because tamals are blackish in color in their bark, and cried loudly, "Krishna, protect us." When he disfigured the earth and dug up the hillocks with his horns and hooves, all of Gokula became covered in dust. The earth split where he placed his hooves. From the holes in the earth, water rose like tears from the earth's weeping. Very, very poetic, very easy to picture the fearful scene. The strident reverberation of his roar was so frightened the pregnant cows and women that they lost fetuses and miscarriages. That was already stated. The demon showed pride, killed all the cows, violated all objects, and roared. Some of the same messages. The cows and people all became terrified and called out to Krishna. Krishna to the rescue. Hearing just a trace of their wailing, merciful Krishna appeared before them. He said, "Do not fear." Fear disappeared. Generally, it doesn't work like that. But they had all confidence in Krishna, and he had the power to protect them. Krishna then beckoned Aristasura. There's a nice painting. Here's Krishna beckoning Aristasura. Come on. There's the coward boys hiding behind bushes, and Krishna's, come on, Aristasura, let's have it. You can easily be killed. I am here just to punish corrupt miscreants like you. Now, I guess he spoke the same language that Krishna spoke, because he got really agitated. Placing his arm on a friend's shoulder, Krishna laughed loudly. This increased Aristasura's anger, but destroyed the worries of his friends. Provoked, Aristasura pawed the ground with one of his hooves, because it's like a sign that bulls are going to charge. They tilt their head, their horns are outstretched. One of the two hooves pawing, I'm getting ready, on the mark, get set, and charge with his horns tilted. Then, with the clouds hovering around his upraised tail, he furiously charged Krishna. So that's a very good painting. The other ones are from comic books. Pointing the tips of his horns straight ahead, glaring menacingly at Lord Krishna from the corners of his bloodshot eyes, Aristasura rushed toward him, full speed, like a thunderbolt hurled by Indra. So Krishna was very quick. He just moved quickly to the side. He not only moved quickly to the side, he got on his back and grabbed him by the horns. And then he threw, with his horns, he threw him back. I don't know how you measure 18 steps, but 18 steps. Just as an elephant might do when fighting a rival elephant. And that wasn't it. He punched him. Krishna easily subdued Aristasura, holding his sharp horns in his noose-like arms. He faced the demon and kicked him strongly 18 times. I don't know if there's some commentary on the significance of 18 times. Why not 20 times? It might be something our acharyas have to say. Thus, repulsed by the Supreme Lord, the bull demon got up and, breathing hard and sweating all over his body, again charged him in a mindless rage. Now, my understanding, somebody may know a little bit more about animals than I do. My understanding is that both cows and bulls perspire through the pores in their skin, whereas other animals don't. They perspire through their mouth, and they get foamy in their mouth. But humans perspire through their skin, and cows and bulls perspire through their kin. Is that correct? Anybody know the answer to that question? I seem to recall that. Krishna casually threw him high up in the air, making him tumble about. Whew. As Aristasura again attacked, Lord Krishna seized him by the horns and knocked him to the ground with his foot. Pulling out his horn, Krishna spoke. So he's trying his best, but his best isn't good enough. Though inauspicious, you have taken an auspicious form of a bull. The form of a cow is more auspicious than a pile of your horns. So there. And he's grabbing him by the horns. He looks a little intimidated by Krishna's strength, straddling his shoulders. And the Lord then thrashed him as if he were a wet cloth, striking him with his own horn until he lay prostrate. Now, some of you have been to Vrindavan, and those of you that have been to Vrindavan, you know there's a Prikrama path. There's a Prikrama path around Govardhan Hill, but there's a Prikrama path around the whole of Vrindavan and Vrindavan town. So to me, this looks like, my guess is that our devotee artists wanted you to pick the place where Aristasura was knocked down to the ground. It's drawn from a scene that's on the Prikrama path. These little side walls of mud or earth so that the people can walk and bullock carts can have a little path to move on. Anyway, that's what I think of when I see this scene. Vomiting blood and profusely excreting stool and urine, kicking his legs and rolling his eyes about, Aristasura thus painfully went to the abode of death. The demigods honored, you see those demigods up in those clouds up there? The demigods honored Lord Krishna by scattering flowers upon him. So the cows are running, the giant Aristasura is getting smashed, the cowherd boys are watching the fun, the demigods are showering flowers. So this is in sequence. Again, Aristasura's coming in, that's up the upper left. Krishna's grabbing him by the horns, and the second up to the upper right. He yanks out his horns in the lower left, then he smashes him with his own horns. And so that's the end of Aristasura, but it's not the end of the pastime, because he was called upon by the gopis in particular, help. So Krishna came proudly before the gopis saying, Aristasura's finished, you're now protected. Because they were planning, the schedule was rasa dance. And the gopis did what gopis would sometimes do. They would speak sassy words to Krishna. Don't come near us. What? You called me to help, and I helped. You just killed a bull. And a bull is very sinful. Krishna said he wasn't a bull. He was a demon, disguised as a bull, but he wasn't. It's a demon. They said, well, he was still a bull. And there's sin for killing a bull. And you don't come near us until you purify yourself, cleanse yourself from the sin of killing a bull. Krishna was a little disappointed. He said, all right, what do you recommend for my purification? The answer was very clear. All the sacred rivers in the three worlds You go there and take your sacred bath in all those sacred rivers, and when you purified yourself in that way, then you can come near us. Krishna smiled. No problem. You know what Krishna did? What did Krishna do? But how did he do that? He did something first. He had to make a place to take his bath in. He took his heel, lifted his foot, and smashed his heel into the earth. Made a big mark, big indentation. And then he called all the sacred rivers personified to come fill that depression in the earth. And they filled up. Krishna took his bath. That place became known as Shamakund. Part 1. And Krishna said, now I've done what you asked, but you should also know, according to scripture, you falsely accuse someone and you're culpable of the same offense that you say that they're culpable of. You accused me wrongly. So now you have to take bath in all the sacred rivers of the whole universe to cleanse yourself of false accusation. They looked at each other, looked at Radharani. Radharani looked at them, and she smiled. And she said, yes. So where are you going to get all the water from all the sacred rivers? Said there's a place just down the road called Manasa Ganga. And it's manifest simply, it's a sacred place here in Vrindavan, and it's the summation of all the sacred rivers of all of Vrindavan, of all the holy places. So you know how many gopi assistants Krishna has? It's a big number. There's different numbers given at different times. Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers of gopi assistants. So they made a human chain and got buckets, and one by one, buckets of Manasi Ganga. Oh, first they had to make the hole. So they took their, what do you call them? Bangles. Yes, bangles. Excuse me. And Radharani made some motion like this. They understood. They very, very quickly, because you know, a few 100,000 ladies making motion like that, they're going to make a nice hole. They dug the hole, and then they brought water from Manasi Ganga in buckets and filled up Manasi Ganga and took their sacred bath in Manasi Ganga. And in this way, they manifested Radhakund. Now, Krishna made a suggestion. You know what? You don't have to go through all this trouble of bringing the water from Manasi Ganga. You can just take water from Shamakund. He said, oh no. You deposited all your sins in that place. Krishna smiled. So they brought the water and they took their sacred bath in Radhakund. Now this is a more recent than the one you saw before. Photograph of, on the far side is Shamakund, on the near side is Radhakund. And if you look carefully, somewhere just a little bit off center, there's a place where water flows between the two. You see it? And there's a few worship places on top of that little dividing walkway. And on different occasions, they have festivals. It is said this is one of the sitting places where Radha and Krishna would sit and receive the respects of their various gopas and gopis. And it's a nice place where you see many visitors to Radhakund. They like going to that place for taking their bath, but there's steps all around. We'll go into a little bit the history of how Radhakund was reestablished by Raghunath Das Goswami. It's a very nice description. So here they are, Radha Krishna, in their very youthful forms. Sometimes in rainy season one can see the kunds flowing together. Not just flowing together, but there's no two kunds. Rainy season, everything floods. You see those places in the middle before they were on top of something, on top of that dividing walkway, and now it's just submerged. Rupa Goswami writes, "Where is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radhakund, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill?" And that place in the middle is one of their sitting places. Here's where it's flooded. You see pilgrims. And it's said that central area is where Radha and Krishna would sometimes sit together. And so here's Vrindavan Das, an artist, making a picture of what he thinks it might have looked like during Krishna's time. You know, just two bodies of water and peacocks and, you know, nice foliage everywhere. Of course, a full moon. So the history is, we know that the Radhakund had been lost, its whereabouts had been lost, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he visited Vrindavan, off in an agricultural field, he went off into an agricultural field that had a pond in it, and he took his bath and declared, "This is Radhakund." And since then, everyone accepted that's exactly where Radhakund was and now is. And during the time of Raghunath Das Goswami, being deeply attached to Govardhan and being deeply attached to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he made his residence near Radhakund, which was just a body of water in the midst of an agricultural field. Someone came along, a wealthy gentleman, who became so moved by the qualities and character and conduct of Raghunath Das, he wanted to give him some vast amount of wealth. And Raghunath Das wasn't interested in a vast amount of wealth, but he thought, what is a proper use of this gesture of service from this man? He said, if you like, you can excavate Radhakund. So that's what happened. And the steps going down and the whole thing was the result of a wealthy somebody making a gift to Raghunath Das, and Raghunath Das, he wasn't an engineer, but he engaged the wealthy man in overseeing the excavation of Radhakund and Shamakund. What happens, it's a further detail, what happens is over the years, the bottom of Radhakund gets thick with mud. And so I forget what the number of years, but every certain cycle of a number of years, they drain all the water out of Radhakund. And then they go, it's a community project. They go with their buckets and remove the mud from the bottom of Radhakund. And then they fill up Radhakund again because it's transcendental. It's not, Radhakund water is because of the sanctity of Radharani, not, necessarily where the water came from or how many times it had to be emptied and refilled. So that mud they're Vaishyas. I mean, they're cowherds, but they know business. They dry the mud, and then with that dried mud, they make mud tilak, Radhakund tilak. When you visit Radhakund, you can see here and there around the sides of Radhakund, there are little shops or people with a little vending cloth. They're selling Radhakund mud, Radhakund tilak. It's a very nice place, transcendental place, and we're going to hear some nice verses about it. Here's from another angle. If you look way over on the left, you see a blue guardrail. Now, what that is the back side of the Gopinath temple. The Gopinath temple is just to the right of what you see on the far left. And the Gopinath temple was one of the favorite places of Janava to visit, because she liked Gopinath deity. And so they built a place for her. If you look closely, there's a little tree growing on top of that thing that extends out into Radhakund. So they built a little place for her. She could sit under the tree, even in the heat of the summer, and just chant the holy name. She didn't need a japa retreat. She would just go to Radhakund and sit and chant all day long. And so that she could bathe privately, they made some steps that went down from where their sitting place was. You can see this when you go there. And then she could take her bath privately, and then come back and then continue chanting. So one day, I like this narration, one day she came back and described a vision that she saw. What she saw was a bridge that spanned from one side to the other side of Radhakund. And on the bridge were Radha and Krishna and gopis enjoying pastimes together. And she was just mesmerized at their beautiful pastimes together while she was chanting the holy name. So then she came back and reported what she had experienced. The point is, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna are eternally going on, and some persons are privileged to have those pastimes disclosed to them or envisioned by them, and some even participate in them. But it's, for very qualified people, and for those of us that aren't so qualified, we can at least know that the aprakat pastimes, although they're aprakat, they're not manifest, they're eternally present in variegated ways. Not like a deity that's standing there, but the full range of activity of the divine couple. So at different times, they paint these buildings. Here's another illustration. This is from the side. You see there's the tree, and then that blue building behind, that's part of the Gopinath temple. That red looks like a piece of cloth that's hanging over the side of that railing. Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur writes, Radhakund and Shyamakund are Govardhan's two love-filled eyes. They are two great floods of the nectar of beauty. They are two great oceans of splendor. They are two beautiful roots from which sweet devotional service grows. And there's the Sangam, that joining area again. The painted blue is that where the place of worship. Brahmanas come. If you walk past there, they'll very enthusiastically invite you to come and do some puja. And you don't have to say yes, but they will be enthusiastic anyways. They are, these two kunds, two jewel mines of love. They are two seeds from which grow the jewel vines of transcendental pastimes, how did they become two splendid and nectar-sweet lakes? Now here's another painting image. By seeing these two lakes, Radha and Krishna believe they are present in them. It is as if they directly see each other there. The wise say that by approaching these lakes, one directly approaches Radha and Krishna. Now this is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur still. This is on the left side, that's Janava Baitak, the sitting place for Janava. There's the tree, there's that structure. She can go down and take her own solitary bath. I mean, all this was done for her. She's the wife of Lord Nityananda and a great Vaishnavi. And that Sangam is over on the center up portion and is dividing the two. Radhakund is larger, Shyamakund is a little smaller. I think that when Radha saw Krishna, she melted with ecstasy and thus assumed the liquid state of the waters of Radhakund. And in the same way, when Krishna saw Radha, he also melted in ecstasy and became the waters of Shyamakund. In this way, the two lakes bear the names and qualities of the divine couple. Here's another closer up photograph of the Sangam and those structures where there's some worship going on. Different season, different time of the day. The water level is pretty high. As you saw, sometimes it just even floods. From a higher, some rooftop somewhere. Very serene. So here's some nice prayers to Radharani. This is from Lalita Madhava. Radha saying, please grant this one benediction to those persons who reside in the profoundly sweet land of Vrindavan and who for a long time yearn with a steady heart to someday attain you. Please, O Master of Gokula, appear before their eyes as their youthful friend. And Krishna says, so be it. Again, this is Vrindavan Das and his nice depictions of there's what might be the bridge that Janava saw going between the Radhakund and Shyamakund. And here's a nice prayer. Having accepted the renounced order of life, this is a medieval poet. My home is this Vrindavan forest. My bed is the soft dust of Vrindavan. The sky of Vrindavan is my blanket, and flowering creepers of Vrindavan are my only belongings. The moon over Vrindavan is the lamp of my hopes, and my chanting beads are counting the days until I meet the divine couple, Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. Nice prayer. Rupa Goswami has spoken specifically about the glories of Radhakund in this verse from Upadeshamrita. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. Kund is as profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as this most beloved of the gopis. Who then will not reside at Radhakund? And in a spiritual body surcharged with ecstatic devotional feelings, aprakat bhav, render loving service to the divine couple, Sri Sri Radha Govinda, who perform their Ashtakali Leela, their eternal eightfold daily pastimes. Indeed, those who execute devotional service on the banks of Radhakund are the most fortunate people in the universe. more. Of the many objects of favored delight, and of all the lovely damsels of Brajabhumi, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most treasured object of Krishna's love, and in every respect her divine Kund is described by great sages as similarly dear to him. Undoubtedly, Radhakund is very rarely attained, even by the great devotees. Therefore, it is even more difficult for ordinary devotees to attain. If one simply bathes once within those holy waters, one's pure love of Krishna is fully aroused. So here's some ending photographs. This is another scene, similar to one we saw earlier. This is a scene at night on the Bahulashtami day, when this pastime of the appearance of Radhakund and Shyamakund occurs. A big festival, and a lot of people come to participate in the festival. They all light lamps by the side of Radhakund and Shyamakund. Lots and lots and lots of, I mean, this is not how it used to be, all those neon lights in the background. But that's okay. It's festive. So that's the appearance day of Radhakund, which is also the death day of Aristasura. And attention goes to Srimati Radharani in all this pastime. Of course, Krishna gets the credit for killing Arista, but Radharani gets all the other credits. Okay, so let's see if there's some discussion. This is the last, the topic this evening is going to be more geared for, our newer people. So this is the last of our Krishna in Vrindavan topics. But it's inspired me to do a refresh on all of these pastimes.
The prayer that you put on the slide, Lalita Madhava, is it Lalita Madhava prayers, or somewhere one of the slides talks about Radharani? So I was reading this book from His Holiness Shivarama Swami. It's a short writings on chant more, and there he brings up the same prayer. It's Krishna giving benediction to Radharani, and in return she asks this prayer to Krishna. She requests this, whatever you put it on the slide, that those who chant for a long duration and come to a holy place and worship you, please reveal to them without hesitation, is something what Maharaj has put in there in the book. So I was thinking that two things, like he writes after that how chanting is so important for a long duration, like someone who is chanting 20 to 30 years and there is no steadiness after that. So Maharaj talks about how important the chanting is, that one should attain that steadiness after such a duration. So one should be very mindful of that. The second one, I felt how Radharani is so merciful, because she is asking on behalf. Krishna asks her, what do you need? And she says, I have you everything because you are with me. But she says that this is for the devotees who want to attain you, because it's not easy to, you cannot reveal to them. But here is this benediction that she asks. I felt so wonderful that for the devotees, she's asking this benediction from Krishna. This is, maybe it's not a question, it's a just comment or realization. But
it's nice. Sharing is not a question. It's fine.
So chanting, maybe I can make it to a question in a way, because as Shiv Ramaswamy points out, the chanting is what he points out in that prayer. So, I mean, person like me started recently into Krishna consciousness, and there is a long time to go, 15, 20 years, and to attain that steadiness, what else that we can do? I mean, we are to attain the steadiness of the chanting.
You know, I've got my flashcard. That's how to. For those of you who don't know what that means, sadhusanga. Because with sadhusanga, there's many, like a ghee wick. What's a ghee wick? It's little strands of cotton, tightened, put in some ghee, and you make a ghee wick, and you make an offering to Krishna with the ghee wick. But it starts with strands of cotton, and you bind them together and twist them, and you make a ghee wick. So sadhusanga is the strands of cotton. So there are different ways we can engage in sadhusanga, but the main outcome of sadhusanga is bhajana kriya in its different manifestations. And then keep going. That's how to. I don't, you've got a microphone, use it.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj, I've been having this question since we were studying Bhakti Shastri, Upadeshamrita, and you were displaying that prayer of Rupa Goswami. Which intelligent person?
Which what?
Which intelligent person doesn't take to serve Radha Kund and be there and perform devotional service? So I'm thinking Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita is also such confidential knowledge, and the devotees, we are so eager to distribute that. Somehow coming to Radha Kund, I have heard from you many times, but I just would like to see, in comparison to giving this knowledge, why we don't have the similar mode to encourage devotees to approach Radha Kund in that mode and get the mercy.
I'm not sure what you're asking. I mean, I think I know what you're asking, but I'm not sure what you're asking. Why do we emphasize preaching and not residing at Radha Kund? Is that what your question is? But what?
Taking back.
You know the answer. Why are you asking the question? Why is it not encouraged? Because it's such a sacred place. One's heart's orientation has to be very, commensurate with the sacredness of that place. And otherwise, the sacredness of that place can result in not the same benefit, but some detriment, offense. So do preliminary purification for some extended period of time, anticipating when will that day come, when I'll have enough purity to have the proper regard for this most sacred place in the universe, and be allowed to enter. So if one's heart's orientation is right, then it's not a problem. But otherwise, it's just another check the box and frivolous. And that's not good. It's not punishable, but it's not good. Now, there's some history, and a little bit of history. There was a point in time, 1975, I think it was. Maybe it was 74, 75, whatever the year was. Prabhupada brought devotees to Vrindavan, and one of the places, every morning he gave class in Nectar of Devotion on the back side. Now you can't even sit there. There's something structure there. By the side of Rupa Goswami's Bhajan Kutir and Samadhi. And they had, so those classes are recorded. And then in the other, that was in the morning. And then the other parts of the day, they went here and there. Prabhupada was introducing them to Vrindavan. The very next year, that was at Kartik month, the very next year, Gaur Purnima festival, after being in Mayapur, then I remember very clearly, Gurudas took us to those same places that Prabhupada had taken them. So the history that we heard was when devotees were taken to Radhakund, they started behaving like, uncultured people. Splashing and playing in Radhakund. And Prabhupada saw that and he was very disturbed. And then he issued this no bathing in Radhakund. And everyone sat straight and there was no bathing in Radhakund. And then some time passed and then he said, only with the permission of your spiritual master. So that's still like an intact instruction. And so the question why, which is what I understand your question to be, because we don't have proper respect. We're not qualified to be in that most sacred of all places. So when there's permission and then there's sufficient caution, then one can enter respectfully. That's why.
Another question on a different topic.
I'm all ears.
Thank you. As we got this opportunity for last 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks, to really hear from you. I was just thinking about some of our teenagers. They're so much into the kirtan, but we don't see many of them in these classes. One thing that was really struck from this panel discussion from the Festival of Holy Name Guru Maharaj, Aruda Mataji was sharing for the children and youth, unless they have this connection to Srila Prabhupada books and Srimad Bhagavatam, it would be very hard for them to continue, even though they may have some attraction to other devotional activities. As a mother and also as a community member here, I'm a little concerned for this young generation and would like to seek your guidance, how we can probably consciously bring that aspect into their lives. Connection to Srimad Bhagavatam and attraction to hearing.
I've already addressed this and I don't want to redo it. From what I have seen, not just here, because I every now and then I travel somewhere. So I see lots of youth in different places. And there's different moods in different places. And the mood here seems to be what you described. But I don't see it's necessarily a problem. Depends on what's inside. And then, if what's inside, then it'll come out. What's inside will come out, provided the association is wholesome. And parenting is the parenting topic. So different young people are going to be like different young people are. Why don't you discuss this with other parents? Because I can say some things I don't think I should say in a mixed audience like this. Discuss with other parents. An observation is it has something to do with a mood, and then when others come into the mood, they adopt the mood because it's the mood. It's what you do when you're a young person. And it's across the board. It's not just, but it's not everybody. So I don't want to go further with this. You're a parent. You're a mother. There's other parents and other mothers, and you discuss with one another, and you come up with ideas that you feel are not going to be pressurizing or whatever the other terms that, how to invite and how to not put pressure. But, create an atmosphere in the home and give them the association of people who not just like the holy name, but like the other aspects of Krishna Bhakti. I'm deliberately holding back saying a number of things. Like, I'm not a parent. I don't have that responsibility. And then your children are in the association of other children that have a certain model of behavior. And the model behavior looks like you described it, and there's other things, and there's other things, and there's other things. And there's other things. Anything else? Parenting. I mean, I don't mind a personal discussion. I've had some personal discussions with different parents and different kids, but it's an individual, not a setting like this kind of discussion. I'm uncomfortable. Something else? Different topic, please.
Yes, Raj. In this pastime, Lord Krishna calls all the holy rivers and the lakes, and they all enter Sham Kund. And before this, or at some point, Nanda Maharaj wants to bathe in the Ganges. And so that time, Krishna, I think, calls Ganga Manasi Ganga. So it is Manasi Ganga already there, and then he calls the others. Or how I was just trying to recall when that pastime happens, when Ganga comes to Vrindavan.
So how does Manasi Ganga manifest? That's your question?
Yes, and is that Manasi Ganga the same as when Nanda Maharaj wants to bathe in the Ganges and Krishna calls the Ganges to Vrindavan?
I don't remember. I don't think so. I don't think it's the same pastime. Does anybody remember?
It's taken us to a place called Pavan.
That's different. Pavan Sarovar is not Manasi Ganga. He's asking Manasi Ganga.
Also is a place where Nanda Maharaj was planning to go.
Yeah, that's a pastime. But all the sacred rivers personified came, and Nanda Maharaj asked, who are you guys? We've come to this place because it's the most holy place. Many people have deposited their sinful reactions. We come here to become purified. But that's not what his question is. It's not Pavan Sarovar. It's Manasi Ganga. And his question is, how did Manasi Ganga become manifest? Who knows? It's somewhere in my memory, and my memory is out to lunch.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I think I made a mistake in thinking I know it. I was thinking of the pastime in which Nanda Maharaj was going on a pilgrimage to Pushkar to take bath there.
You're saying the same pastime she's speaking.
Oh, okay. Hare Krishna. Sorry.
It's the Pavan Sarovar pastime. And it's a nice story. And there's more details, but that's not what the question is. So I'll see if I can find, we'll give this a homework assignment. Unless Ruda, you want another homework assignment. She did a good job. Maybe somebody else. I'll search. And Jamuna Jivana, you and I can search and see if we come up with an answer. What's the circumstance of Manasi Ganga becoming manifest? Now, in one sense, it's eternal because the places of Krishna's pet.
Another lecture I remember from you is Aristasura. When Aristasura came as a calf, and then he was also killed by Krishna. And because it was a calf, then he had to take a bath in Mother Ganges.
So he invited Ganga, and Ganga came to provide the water, and he took bath in the.
That's my memory, and seems like Vashan.
What?
Aristasura also takes that same pastime.
Prahlad Nrsinga?
They're trying to hide the
Look who's here. Blink and he's gone. Where'd he go? Okay. So Vatsasura. Prahlad, you find the whole story and send me a copy. And then we'll circulate it. Well, I want to edit it first. Circulate it. Good. Okay, does that answer? We'll have a nice document. Compliments of Prahlad Nrsinga.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Can I ask question from Thursday's class?
What?
Can I ask question from Thursday's class?
Thursday's class. Okay, what was the class about?
Putana.
Part 3 or part 4?
I think it's part 2.
Part 2.
So, can I ask, Maharaj?
Go ahead, you got the microphone.
So, in one of the slide you said like when Putana has killed the infants, all the infants, all the small kids, infant child, they belong to Kamsa's dynasty. So they are they like demons, just like Devaki's 6 sons?
No.
Okay.
That's special. It's a one-off backstory. They're not the same. The explanation is Krishna protects his devotees. How can somebody, Kamsa or someone like Kamsa's agent, harm Krishna's devotees? So that's a detail. She did some killing. I mean, I had some just this morning had some discussion with Nandi Mukhi on this topic. Putana killed children. And a comment, Jiva Goswami's comment is they're somehow connected because Kamsa had extension of his influence, and so that's Jiva Goswami's explanation. The children that she killed up to the point of having a confrontation with Krishna were children somehow connected. It doesn't give an explanation. Was there a boundary line, or how was it Kamsa connected? No details, so don't ask details. Is that it? There's something else? Okay. Back behind you.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. So Aristasura's, his demeanor was so prideful that even just his bellowing was causing miscarriages to happen. And I was thinking that this is the range of demons. I mean, we have been hearing few classes, many classes. So like yesterday also Shankachuda was killed by Krishna. So
what was something? What?
Shankachuda demon.
Okay.
So I was thinking that sometimes Krishna arranges circumstances to purify someone, and sometimes Krishna is just directly giving them purification. So what is?
I don't. You're making two options, and they sound like the same option. Could you clarify? Sometimes Krishna this, and sometimes Krishna that.
Sometimes Krishna orchestrates certain circumstances for purification.
Restricts.
Or orchestrates, or he arranges the circumstances for purification.
Okay.
And in another case, here we are seeing that he is killing all the demons personally.
Why not? Is that purification or not?
It is, but it is so good. I mean, it is directly coming through Krishna.
Yeah, what's their hope if he doesn't do that?
Yes, Maharaj. So I was coming to that point. That is that like something. Sometimes in our lives also, we sometimes see that we are concerned about certain persons, and it looks like they are just not able to see. So should we just leave it up to Krishna, or still extend ourselves to them? Whatever is in our capacity, but it might, backfire sometimes. So that's the practical aspect of this question to ask Maharaj.
I think I understand what you're asking, but you're not making it easy for me to understand what you're asking.
I will
Let me repeat what I think I understand you're asking.
Yes.
Where do you get intelligence from?
Yeah.
In some cases, you keep going and trying to do your best. In some cases, you recognize it's useless. They're too hard-headed. Like Vidura, he just left. He tried and he tried and he tried and he tried and he tried, and no more service from me, so I'm leaving. I'm going to go get purified from being in this contaminating association and go in pilgrimage. So, that's an extreme. So, how do you or I know? Then the answer is intelligence. Supposing you don't have very much intelligence, some of us are in that category, then, commonly, you go for the low-hanging fruit. You go for persons who are more inclined rather than more stubborn, or deeply entrenched, or heavily covered, or, you know. But there may be some intelligence where you see beyond the conditioning and the covering and the negative stuff. You see a spark. So you stay with it. But that's according to our capacity, and also according to intelligence.
Sometimes we have had relationships also in the past.
Same answer. Intelligence. Discrimination. This from that. And Krishna may inspire you. But then you have to do a little reality check. Maybe my inspiration is La La Land. It has nothing to do with... I'm just attached. Or I'm thinking, I'm gonna be the rescuer, the hero, or something. It's not based upon proper discrimination. It's based upon something else, ego or something. So how do you get intelligence? Supersoul. How do you get close to Supersoul so you can get good intelligence? Chant good japa. And hear with great attention. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati bhaktir bhavati. So you do your sadhana practices as diligently as possible every day. That's what you should do. All of us should do. And recognize I'm not very intelligent, and I need some indication from Supersoul. Until then, you don't go rushing in where angels fear to tread. You just do what you can do.
Yes, Maharaj. Just a little bit follow-up, Maharaj.
I'm listening.
That sometimes it just feels so urgent. I mean, I understand.
That's you. That's not necessarily Supersoul.
Yeah. But then sometimes we think that at least our intentions are good and Krishna will understand.
You're asking the same question 16 ways. It's the same answer. You're being stubborn now.
Marriage is, but
yeah, here we go again.
We are dependent. Maharaj.
Okay. All power to you. I mean, I'm speaking this way because it sounds like you know what you should do, but you're being stubborn anyways. So here's another option besides go and stop. Pause. Try that one out.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, up front, microphone. Would you like the last question? No. Go ahead.
Guru Maharaj, my question was related to Advaitavad philosophy. The question is related to that one of the yesterday about Rama killed Rama and Krishna both killed the first demon as a woman.
You like that question, huh?
So there that part was coming like iksha, right? Iksha. So iksha is the first obstacle to overcome. Asa. So asa is first obstacle to overcome that. So question come, Maharaj, when that we talk about the demons and all, we consider this the body and all. So sometime Advaitavad philosophy said entire the demons and all inside you, and like that this
Kill
kind
yourself,
of
huh?
this kind of iksha belongs to like
Asha, not iksha.
this kind of asa is like this demon relate this demon. So how we can differentiate between this
Between what and what?
like sometimes this guy the Duryodhana was not not a concept, was Duryodhana was not a person. It is inside you there is
I got the question, folks. Differentiate between whether it's reality or illusion. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, your question is it's two peas in the same pod from the previous question. How do I discriminate? With intelligence. So we're in mixed position. We're not Chuta Bhaktas, and we're not apparadis. We're not pure devotees and not non-devotees. We're becoming devotees, so we're mixed. So sometimes and sometimes. So the litmus test is this is one of the topics we went over for 3 classes. Who is at the center? Who is to be pleased anyways? And the mix is, I call it the 2-pocket program. So much for Krishna, so much for me. So much for Krishna, so much for me. Me, Krishna, Krishna. 2-pocket program. And that's where the intelligence isn't clear. And that's our situation. Could you lean one way or the other? Yeah, thank you. So how do you discriminate? How do you discern between? Who is at the center? Who is to be pleased? That's you. That's the step back, the pause situation. Who is the person? Who is the recipient of this service or this activity? Is it me or is it Krishna or just a mix? And to what portion of it is I'm at the center, and let me see if I can dial that down and dial up Krishna should be at the center. And I'm doing all that while I'm in this pause position. And then at least, given the circumstance you outlined, let me do something that I know is for Krishna's pleasure. Let me really work on it and work on it every day. That's my abhyasa, that's my practice every day. So as I get purification from doing that which I know is pleasing to Krishna, at least trying, Krishna's at the center, trying, and then I'll have better discrimination power for other areas that was a little cloudy for some time. Borrow from the place of strength and apply some of that strength to an area that's a little in the cloudy zone, less clear. It's sadhu sangha and bhajana kriya. That's what you do.
Thank you.
And it's just acknowledging my position is what my position is. I'm not there yet. That's pretty easy. We're not there yet. So then in that humble position, let me not pretend to myself or to others otherwise. Let me do those things that are clear and do them nicely, do them regularly with some consistency and get purification so that my intelligence becomes a little stronger. My super soul connection becomes a better connection, less static, more clear signals. And move. And then keep good association, sadhu sangha again. Persons who I look up to and learn from how they do what they do. maybe consult with them on this topic or that topic. Not be, don't abandon self, but just learn from wise people, sadhu sangha. And little by little by little, the cloudy becomes more clear. Until then, it's acceptance. I'm in the cloudy zone. It's not clear. Sadhu sangha is the answer to your question.
Yes. Thank you.
No, behind you. Behind you.
A reflection, Guru Maharaj. You were speaking in the beginning of this pastime that Krishna asked the gopis to give up fear, and they gave up their fear.
Yeah, wasn't that nice?
Very beautiful. And I've heard you speak of Queen Kunti giving up her fear in this way, and it's been very inspiring. The way you described it is when Bhima did not return. Here's a mother whose son, she has no clue where her son is. And when she approaches Vidura, and Vidura says, do you remember what Vyasadeva said about your sons? They will have a very long life. And just hearing from Vidura, she gave up her fear. So, hoping that by hearing repeatedly in this way about these personalities that are able to give up their fear, just by hearing that we can also somehow give up our fear by hearing from Sadhu and Krishna.
My thoughts are going to Prabhupada, and he, on the one hand and on the other, on the one hand, he would make it very clear the contamination of Kali Yuga, and then he would send us out into the Kali Yuga field and to preach, and Krishna will protect us. Not do foolish things, but Krishna will protect us. Go right into the same scene that he dragged us out of and sent us back into it, and, clean up a little bit and, take the message of Krishna. The devotees felt and were obviously empowered to do what they did boldly.
And in many ways, Guru Maharaj, we're very privileged because we are seeing, 50 years after Prabhupada did that for you, that persons of your caliber are still continuing, even going into that contamination and still totally protected.
There's risk, and at the same time, there's protection. And we don't take undue risk, but we take risk with confidence. It's like Prabhupada's example in this regard is you go into a place that has some disease, cholera or something, you may take an injection. So you're protected from contracting that same disease. But doctors may go into such a situation and be protected. They take precaution. But there's risk. Okay.
Krishna, I've been reading and meditating on the purpose of 16th chapter Bhagavad Gita for the camp, divine and demoniac nature, and this whole series has been so...
Right on.
Yes. And, especially this character, his heart is filled with pride and we see cruelty. And, I was thinking that in that few purports in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada talks about, slaughter of animals and other sequences that happen. But coming to myself, I was thinking perhaps it may not be cruelty, but toning it down a little bit, harshness of speech or harshness in actions or in thought is. I'm trying to understand the link between pride and cruelty, how, or pride and harshness, and how does that. Is there a direct.
It's a subtle, the question you're asking is a subtle one. I'm sure there's some connection. I mean, the obvious connection is our dear friend false ego. False ego is the foundation for pride, a false conception of one's own importance. And one has that false conception of one's own importance, one can do anything and be insensitive to the consequence. How that impacts on others because of false ego. In other words, the flip side, empathy, is absent. It's gone. I'm not feeling how the other person is feeling. Empathy is missing. You know, this Sri Radhika's platform of speaking, empathic communication, so that when it's, the concern for others is absent, that's pride. It's about me. I, me, and mine. So false ego. And then its corollaries. So harsh speech, cruel action, no problem. Whatever serves my mood and my purpose, because it's all about I, me, and mine. Very lonely world for such people. Okay. I think we're done. We're done? Oh, you've got your microphone. Okay.
Sorry, Maharaj. If that's okay, I just had 2 questions from yesterday's class.
Only 2?
From yesterday's class, I had 2.
Okay, okay.
So it's not particularly about the story, but a few things you've briefly mentioned while explaining the story and during the questions, during the discussions from yesterday's class.
This is the Shankachuta story?
Yeah, Shankachuta story.
Okay.
So one of my questions was, we talked about Jaya and Vijaya and how they were cursed to be demons for 3 births. But Jaya and Vijaya are the exception. They're the only people who have fallen down from Vaikuntha in that chronological order. So I was thinking, because Jaya and Vijaya were in Vaikuntha and they were serving Lord Vishnu in Vaikuntha by being their doorkeepers, I was thinking Jaya and Vijaya must be at their heart very divine people with very great qualities, like
yes.
saintly people,
yes.
right? So I was thinking, when they fell down and took their birth as demons on earth, were they truly at their hearts as demons just very bad people, or was it like a leela? Was it just leela?
Well, they weren't just actors on a stage. Okay. You know, our local art director, we won't use her name, has created a drama, and my part is to be a demon. So I know that I'm not a demon. I'm Krishna's devotee, but I have a part to play on the drama today. So I've got a costume, and I'm saying things in a certain way, and I'm, cussing and, being a demon in different ways. But that's not who I am. So your question is kind of like that. Were they just play actors, and really at heart, so yes, really at heart, they're devotees. But they had accepted the role, fully, not just cosmetically, not just as a costume, as an actor on a stage. They accepted that role.
So it is said that when you gain the association of a saintly person, a Vaishnava, it's very auspicious and you get benefits from it. So I was thinking, when Jaya and Vijaya took their birth as demons, did the people who associated with them in any capacity, did they also get the same benefit of associating with a saintly person?
No. Nice try. You're an Uttama Adhikari if you can see that. No.
Thank you, Maharaj. And my next question was, yesterday you were mentioning how you cannot...
Let me pause for just a moment. I recently was reading something where who was it? I can't remember. Somebody was an exalted devotee, but they slipped and they got cursed, and then they got saved in their next lifetime. And then an acharya is commenting, at heart they're actually a great devotee. They just slipped and they got a curse, and so they, in the deepest level, yes, but not in a conscious level. They're covered in a conscious level. But at a deep level, they're doing a service. And then they returned because they returned back to their original position. They became again doorkeepers or gatekeepers. So in the deepest level, yes, but not the other levels. They weren't just play acting, and not that people. They were also parts of the same drama. Were getting the same benefit as being with gatekeepers of Vaikuntha. Okay, now your second question.
So yesterday you mentioned, when I asked another question, that you cannot actually actively just change your brain, change the wiring of your brain into a different consciousness. So you can't force it, but it has to grow naturally from inside. So I was thinking, is that the same with humility also?
Could you turn that speaker facing me? Keep going.
So is that the same thing with humility also? Like when you keep saying, I have to be humble, I have to be humble, I have to be humble, or when you try to force, when you try actively...
It's not force, you cultivate. Because cultivate means it's who you really are. The other is who you aren't. To cultivate humility is to get closer to who you really are. And you're peeling off layers of who you aren't. The false pride and all that other stuff, false ego and all that stuff, that's not who you really are. So you're just peeling off the layers of who you aren't so you can get to who you really are. There may be different ways of getting there, reminding yourself and rehearsing or everything. But it's not humility is not cosmetic. You can't be humble just by trying to, paint yourself humble. It's from the inside. So the layers of who you aren't have to be removed so you can get to who you really are. Does that help? Not exactly. Go ahead.
Just for my understanding, to see if I got the thing, how in order to cultivate prema for Krishna, we don't do that by thinking I have to love Krishna, but we do that through seemingly indirect ways of the other process of devotional service. So even humility is like that. We don't get it by consciously thinking about humility, but we do other processes that are seemingly unrelated, but they help you.
Well, it's just keep it simple. Don't get over analytical. Just serve. That's who we really are. Eternally. We're servants. And the cultivation is like a seed, and you cultivate the seed and it grows to be what the seed is. in its mature stage. So who are we in the mature stage? We're servants. Supposing I'm not thinking that. We're serving anyway. Hello, we're serving anyway. We're servants because we're servants by our identity. And we may be thinking, I'm not a servant. I'm in charge. Just ask me. And we're not in charge. We're servants. We're servants of so many, 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 many masters. And ultimately the master is the supreme master. So it's who we really are. So humility is just, or any higher quality is just who we are. Amanitvam adambhitvam. Shantir Arj. So the chapter, I'll like to end with this. Chapter 13, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, texts 8 through 12. There's qualities of knowledge or items of knowledge. Humility and pridelessness are the first two. And that's knowledge, but it's a quality. It's knowing who you are. To know who you are, it's humility and pridelessness. There's other items, but that's the first two items that Krishna gives. So read it carefully. And you not just rehearse it like you're a dramatist on a stage, acting, trying to act like a humble person when I'm not really. It's who you really are. It's a doorway to who you really are. Peel away some layers of who you aren't. Who you think you are, but you aren't. Service to the Supreme. Gonna end.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Srila Prabhupada ki. Gaur Premanandi.